Hi everyone, today's video I'll be showing a few tips and tricks on how to get the best possible finish using your Luminaura Aurora pigment from Social Claus. There are a few ways that you can apply the pigment. The sugar drop sponge that's provided in your pigment purchase. It's very firm, silicone applicator. You can also use the smooth finger cot that's also provided in your purchase. This is nice for getting any excess pigment off as well. You can use a regular makeup wedge or an eyeshadow applicator. You can also use the silicone tool, which is my preferred method for burnishing the pigment. Now, I prefer to use the makeup wedge. It is dense yet soft, and you can see it conforms around my nail quite nicely, and that will give a nice smooth, fast coverage, initial coverage. And then this is the most important part, taking the silicone tool and burnishing it to a high shine. I can't stress enough how this is the most important tip that I can offer. This is how you will get the most out of the pigment. Now, you can also use a gloved finger as well if you have any gloves. I use them when I apply the pigment because I don't want it all over my hands. Now I'll be showing you over a light and dark sample so you can see the difference. We'll show a before and after burnishing side by side so you'll see. The purple I used is high voltage from LeChat, and the white is Verona lace from Cuccio. You do have to have a no-wipe top coat. You can use any of your preferred ones, but everybody always asks me why they're not getting the same results that I am. So this is my recommendation. The Akzentz top coat and the silicone tool. Those I think are the two most important things that will get you that have been consistently same results for me when I use any pigment, and that goes for chromes, multi-chromes, the opals, any of those pigments. The Akzentz has been an excellent no-wipe top coat. Now, to prevent chipping and peeling, I did an experiment. I actually did the experiment on my own nails for this manicure, and it was using the Bond Aid. I had read from several people that they used it just around the perimeter of the nail, but I've had issues with top coat separating on my nails when I put it on, especially around the cuticles. It will start to pull away, and along the spine of the nail it will start to kind of slip off to the sides. And using the Bond Aid over the entire nail seemed to help with that. When I went to apply the Akzentz top coat, I reduced that by quite a bit using the Bond Aid over the entire pigment layer. And I'll show you how well that works coming up here in just a moment. So again, Bond Aid to help with any chipping or peeling that you may experience using these highly mirrored pigments. And again, this is 2 weeks on my manicure, and you can see that it's still absolutely perfect. I don't have any chipping or peeling after 2 weeks using the Bond Aid. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our light samples. And again, I'll show a before burnishing and an after. But first I want to show the difference between this pigment and, say, her opal pigment. I've had a lot of people ask me if this is a glitter. And no, this is not a glitter. It is 100% pigment. And that is why when you burnish it, you will get that highly mirror finish, whereas a glitter, which is typically a poly or plastic core with color on the outside, won't get you the same type of finish. Now, the opal pigments on the left and Luminaura on the right, The opal pigment does not need the burnishing because it's such a fine powder. You don't need to use the extra burnishing step for it, and you can see the difference in the pigments there. So we'll go ahead and get started with our white sample here. Alright, now I'm going to use my makeup wedge to start this first sample. And on this one I'm going to do a little bit of pigment for the initial coverage, and you'll see that if you just do that one bit of coverage, it's still quite grainy. So if you come in with a little bit more with the sponge, that will help cover the nail even more. And while it is mirror and shiny, there still is a little bit of graininess to it. So we'll start on our second sample and I will show you the difference. So again, we have graininess with our first layer, and apply a light second layer with the sponge, and then come in with the silicone tool. So this is the main tip and trick for this, is the silicone burnishing. I can't stress enough that if you want the same kind of results that I'm getting, that you use the silicone tool to burnish the pigment with. So again, over white it's a little less apparent. You'll see the difference when I do the darker samples, but you'll see on the left, slightly more grainy appearing than on the right. You'll also notice that on the right that has been burnished to a high shine, that those colors tend to show up a little bit more. So that pink and the green shows a little bit more. And you'll see in that highlight area the graininess of the pigment. And on the right we don't have any of that. It's very smooth. So here's our dark sample. Again, one initial layer using the makeup sponge and kind of burnishing in a little bit with the sponge. And while it does have a very mirror effect, you'll see the difference in our second sample here that we do the burnishing with the silicone tool. Now you don't have to pick up any additional pigment, but I like to do that because it just makes sure that all those areas are covered with as much of the pigment as you can possibly get on there for the smoothest finish. Alright, so again on the left is unburnished and on the right is burnished, and on the darker color you can really see the difference between the two. Very grainy looking on the left. It's just a much better high shine using the silicone tool. Now again, I'm quickly showing the finger caught. Some people have asked me if it really does help. It will give you a very nice finish with that. Again, you can apply the pigment with that too if you wish for a high shine. So now you're ready to top coat your nails. Now one of the issues that I've had in the past when applying the over a very mirror, a very smooth finish, is that the top coat will start to pull away from the cuticle and the tip and along the sides. And some of you may have experienced the same thing. And this is yet another reason why I always recommend curing each nail separately, so you try to avoid this. But sometimes even doing that, you would still get that separation and pulling away. So this is what I mean here. I've painted that nail, and almost immediately it has started to pull away from the tip. And this is because there is no sticky layer, of course, for the top coat to stick to. So we'll get pulling away from the sides and from the cuticle. This was one of my main issues that I have with chromes, multi-chromes, and this Luminaura. But I'll show you a way that has worked for me to avoid that. And one of the things I found that seems to have worked is the Bond Aid, and using a file to etch along the perimeter edges and along the tip. So this is what I would suggest if you want the best possible wear out of your pigment. This is another tip that you can do, is take your file, give it a nice etching around the sides. This will not only take away some of the pigment, it will etch the surface to give the top coat something to stick to. And using the Bond Aid, if you don't have the issues like I've had with the separation of the pigment, you can simply use the Bond Aid around the perimeter, the tips, the corners, and around the cuticle. But if you're like me and you have that issue with the top coat, I experimented just to see mainly if the Bond Aid would affect the appearance of the pigment, really, to see if it would haze it, and I was very surprised to find that it didn't. So as I'm doing here, I'm very using a feather-light touch, floating that Bond Aid over the entire nail. I don't want that brush to loosen any of the pigment, because then there would be some hazing if that happens. So using a very light touch, go over the entire nail with the Bond Aid, and then come in with your top coat, and we're going to float a nice even layer of top coat over that, and paying special attention to the tip and the perimeter. Now you're ready to cure that. So you can see here that no separation, no pulling away from the tip, and it made for a perfect application. Now on my nails, I did that same technique on mine, and my manicure is going on about 2 weeks now, and as you can see, it's absolutely perfect. I don't have any chipping or peeling, so I would call this one a win. It seems to have worked very nicely in my experiments so far. Now, to get again the best possible wear, I did apply 2 coats of the top coat. So again, etch the sides and the tip, apply your second layer of top coat, and cure for the recommended time. Alright, so there is our finished nail out of the lamp. Smooth finish, no hazing from using the Bond Aid, and that finish should last for the entire length of the manicure. So with our white nail, you can see how burnishing really is the main trick to getting the best possible finish from your Luminaura. So if you don't have the silicone tool, I would highly recommend again that you get the silicone tool if you want the same results that I'm getting here, along with the Akzentz top coat. So links to everything I used are down below. Like and subscribe if you found the video helpful. And until next time, I will see you guys later.